You're watching Capital Connection from the Illinois State Capitol.
Welcome back. Joining us now is House Republican Jeff Keicher. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are midway through April, month and a half or so, give or take, depending on how long it takes to get the budget passed, left in this session. It was deadline week in the House. From the House Republican standpoint, how are things running in the up in the House?
Challenging, right? There's certainly some things that we're able to advance, but one of the biggest problems that we're seeing is when you look at the number of bills that House Republicans have been able to pass out of committee, to get out of rules, and to get on the floor, our proportion relative to our membership is not what it should be. So I'd like to see a little bit better ability for Republicans, especially on bills that are important to our people that we represent in all 102 counties. I'd like to see those bills get a little bit better attention, a little bit better traction, and at least get an up or down vote in committees.
So that last part in particular, the committee part of this, that was, I wonder how you've really seen that, and your caucus members have seen that change over the past few years, especially as we've gotten more into Speaker Welch's tenure into the office.
I would say from top down, so when we look at the chairmanship, I think it's been enlightening to see how different personalities will chair different committees. You certainly have some very strong chair people that are very stringent on the rules and the bills that they're willing to allow advancing committee. And you have also some that are a little bit newer that maybe the protocol isn't what it should be, and everybody in between. For the most part, the committees that I've served on, I've been able to establish a very good rapport with each of the chairpersons and vice chairpersons of the committee. The bills that we see in committee, frankly, if I break this down, I think there's a lot more work that needs to happen both before the committee by representatives on both sides, but also the committees are designed to be able to vet and work through problems at the committee level. I don't see that happening to the extent that maybe they should.
So going into a couple of the legislative items that you have going forward, trying to pass through the House, one that I thought was really interesting was a bill that kind of went a step further than a call that Alexi Giannoulias had, the Secretary of State, senior driving licenses. And I bring this one up because I had the Secretary of State on the show earlier, actually, and but your bill would make it so over 75 drivers no longer have to take that re-up on their driver's test. Now, the Giannoulias had a call to raise the age to 79. Why do you feel like it just should be gone altogether?
So it's a complicated issue, right? But first, the policy's ageist. There isn't something that magically happens on your birthday that determines whether you're a good or bad driver. When we look at some of the stereotypes that are out there that keep getting thrown at me, the stereotype of the elderly person hitting the wrong pedal and going through the front of a store. Well, that person is already licensed to drive. They're in that car, they're holding a driver's license. So the process hasn't worked as is, right? What we should have in place, and this is not part of our legislation, but what I would like to see as part 2 of this, is we need to have in place a set of triggers. So Cole, let's say that you have a physical or mental condition that could affect the safe operation of a motor vehicle, and that includes diminishment. An elderly person who's maybe dealing with some cognitive issues. Let's say you have a ticket or an accident. At the renewal cycle, you should need to affirmatively answer questions that would determine whether or not you need a higher level of screening. And those that are of any age that are having a physical condition or a mental capacity issue, absolutely they should be subjected to a behind-the-wheel test. But for most drivers, Cole, if they get flagged for their 16th birthday driver's exam, that's one opportunity. You're not behind the wheel for the Secretary of State again until you reach this magic age of 79. Something needs to happen in between. We've seen the proliferation of people texting and driving. We've seen an increase in our highway deaths. We've seen an increase in the number of accidents that are happening. A lot of it deals with distracted driving. We've seen Scott's Law not being obeyed. We've seen our first responders and our road crews getting killed. We need to focus on the people that have tickets and accidents, the people that have health conditions that would inhibit the safe operation of a vehicle, and that have mental capacity issues. And that's what I'm seeking to do by taking away the ageist policy of just having a birthday be a trigger for that.
I wonder, would that have an impact on car insurance costs though, auto insurance costs?
I would certainly hope so, because if you think about it over time, right, you'd have to work through the process. If you're able to flag and put through more of both an education and a screening process, those that have a higher propensity to have a loss, then I think we eventually wind up getting might not be a big drop, but we wind up getting a better result in the number of accidents that we have on our road.
But your bill as of right now doesn't have all of that additional screening process, right? This is just to eliminate. So I guess my question was, if you just get rid of that initial test, would that raise like insurance rates for or premiums for people over 75 if they aren't able to go to their insurance companies and said, yeah, I tested again, I'm good?
So it doesn't inhibit the renewal process, so they're still able to renew. They're still able to get an eye exam when they renew if they're wearing glasses. So the accidents wouldn't necessarily go up. And again, I point to all the seniors that are having accidents today are currently licensed drivers.
Yeah, and I'm not saying the accidents would go up. I'm just saying car insurance companies assessing like liability if their people on their plans were not re-upped on their tests like they are currently. Would a car insurance company be like, maybe we should bump that a little bit?
Not necessarily.
More about that.
So car insurance rates are generally set on what the experience has been. And so until that experience has a chance to mature in there, but again, they're being insured now, they're being protected now. So the only thing that should impact those rates would be an accident or ticket level that winds up increasing from where we're at today.
You had another package of bills that I wanted to look at as far as human trafficking is concerned. It's an interesting topic. It gets into that state versus federal law, how that interacts. What can Illinois do at the state level to try to combat this that is just inherently not only multi-jurisdictional, it involves so many states, it involves so many countries?
Yeah. So you bring up federal issue, especially with human trafficking, and the first thing I would want to do is give kudos to both Representative Kinzinger and Representative Hultgren, who were working on this issue 10, 15 years ago, and that's where I was first introduced to what the problems are. I've been told by some that the Rockford metropolitan area is one of the #1 trafficked communities in the Midwest as far as folks going through there and transiting there. So what can Illinois do, right? We can't control some of the federal things that are going on, but what we can do is look within our borders and see the plight of the trafficked individual. And what our bill sought to do is once that person comes out of trafficking, it allows them to seal or expunge, depending on the nature of the crime, those criminal records that they were forced to commit the crimes while being trafficked. And the reason for that is we want to enable that trafficked survivor to be able to get car loans, to be able to get an apartment background check completed, to be able to enroll in school and go on with their life without being burdened by their tragic history. So what Illinois can do is make it better for survivors, and I think that's what you've seen in the bill that I've presented both last spring and the one that passed the House yesterday, as well as the bill by Representative Laha and where her bill seeks to go with trafficked individuals.
So you said that your bill passed out of the House, but what kind of, I guess when we're talking about expungements and we're talking about that kind of policy, that's typically something, I guess, that you would hear from the Democratic side of this aisle. Is this something, we talked earlier about, needing to get bills through and how that process works. This is something you have Democratic support on.
Absolutely. Our bill last spring, and to frame that for you, my bill last spring received unanimous support in both chambers and got a governor's signature. I anticipate that happening with this one as well. My cousin was tragically abused by her stepfather from ages 8 to 13. So the plight of survivors that we see in our community has always been something that I've wanted to champion and work on. And it was a great opportunity. You know, I love looking at different media that's out there. I support local media. I think we need more robust local media and coverage of issues. But I had the opportunity to listen to NPR Illinois, and they had featured someone from the Polaris Project, which is a national agency that works for trafficked individuals and their ability to get through this recovery period, if you will. And they put out a report, and it's a report card, and they go through and they grade where Illinois and other states are or are not strong as to how we help recovered trafficked individuals. Long way to say, we looked at where Illinois was strong as analyzed by professionals, and we decided that putting this expungement into place is the best possible path forward for Illinoisans that are trying to get their life back.
Well, Representative Keicher, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for joining us as well. That's going to do it for us on this week's episode. For Capital Connection, I'm Cole Hankey.